Broadcasting live from the Zimmer Communications World Headquarters.
Great news for the American people.
This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri with Branden Rathert, featuring Stephanie Bell, News Director Brian Houseworth, John Marsh, and Hannah, the producer.
This is why we listen to you. Get ready, pal.
And now, here's your host, Branden Rathert.
I'm sitting here with my father. I will make certain that between the man sitting next to me and every person he knows and my ability to forever hold a grudge, that you will regret not following my direction. I am sitting here waiting for the call with my father. Sounds like a shakedown, doesn't it, Director?
I'm not going to get into commenting on that.
You seem deeply uncurious about it, don't you? Almost suspiciously uncurious. Are you protecting the Bidens?
Absolutely not. The FBI does not has no interest in
You won't answer the question about whether or not that's a shakedown, and everybody knows why you won't answer it. Because to the millions of people who will see this, they know it is. And your inability to acknowledge that is deeply revealing about you.
Points to Matt Gaetz for using the word uncurious. Welcome into the show. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. I am Branden Rathert. There's Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
Mr. Marsh is here.
Yes, sir.
There's producer Hannah.
Hello.
Brian Houseworth is here, too. And I get into some of what happened in this hearing yesterday. FBI Director Christopher Wray on the hot seat. He is confused, and we're going to use his own audio to prove why he's apparently confused about what's going on. Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe, he's here 7:35. Great news for veterans and their families. And State Rep Cody Smith going to be hanging out with us 8:10. Big budget news. He is the chair budget committee in Missouri State House. Also, and I don't know if he'll answer this or not, but John, apparently Cody Smith, he's one of those names out there that folks are talking about a potential run for a statewide office. I don't know what you've been hearing in your nest, but definitely that name Cody Smith out there. He's here at 8:10. Maybe he'll talk about that here on the show. The hearing. We'll get into that, but I want to start with weather. Several thousand people, Boone County, Callaway County, according to ABC 17, about 2,000 customers in Callaway County without electricity for a while. Several folks in Boone County. Houseworth, we're pretty much done with most of the serious weather.
In terms of the serious weather, we're done, but the problem is it's going to be the aftermath a little bit of this, and there were some folks who lost power. Mm-hmm. We reported on it. Everything we reported on the preview, quoting the National Weather Service, was pretty accurate. There was really very little, if any, tornado threat. What happened, though, is the storm system moved in much faster than what they anticipated. We were expecting the storms to start about 8 o'clock last night, maybe on and off till 3. And the time frame stayed pretty accurate. We had storms all the way till probably 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. But that first wave at 6 o'clock last night actually was a little bit before that. That was serious. I was on I-70 or near it, and you could not drive. Boone Electric Crews, Ameren, Callaway Electric Crews have all worked around the clock. Most people have power back on. There are about, and I've been checking every hour, about 144 right now it'd be the Carrington and New Bloomfield areas that are without power near Callaway County.
Brian, you're lucky that your little car didn't float away down I-70.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it was, I just had to make a judgment call, and I stayed on the on-ramp, and it wasn't long after that, a tractor-trailer crashed further down on I-70 last night. KMIZ got video of that, and I don't know what happened there, but there were some people driving faster than they should have at that time.
Good news, we got some much-needed rain. As a matter of fact, Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe, who is a rancher himself, when he is here at 7:35, that's one of the other things that to be talking about, relief for ranchers, cattle folks, anybody in the ag industry. Because the other thing we're watching now, levels on the Missouri River, transportation of goods, that has the ability to affect us. And Brian, if for some reason we do get big rain and your car starts to float away, I think we can all learn from our new friend Fischer in Chicago, who dealt with heavy rains recently.
I went and then my car just started floating, and I said, "Oh snap!"
So that's the proper response. Is if
snap!
Oh snap!
I heard that, and that was spot on. The rainfall that you talked about was so important. It depends on where people are at, but I did check with the National Weather Service. Unfortunately, they don't have a gauge in Jeff City, so it'd be close. I've always said this.
Wait,
hold up.
Is it broken?
We got to get to the Christopher Wray hearing yesterday, but What?
Well, there's no gauge. The National Weather Service official measuring station is at Columbia Regional Airport. 3/4 of an inch of rain. I believe it was higher than that. There's anybody listening that saw the storms come in. That rain gauge is on the side of a building down there. So, take that for what it's worth. But that's officially what it was. And I would venture to say Jefferson City probably even had a little bit more than that.
John, we need to get on that.
It was kind of isolated in the way the storms moved in. The southern part of the listing area, Jefferson City included, didn't get near the rain the northern areas.
If you have a rain gauge at your house, feel free to send us a picture of it.
Call the city admin, Jeff City, say, hey, I got one. If y'all need one, you can have mine. What I wonder with the power, several thousand folks affected in mid-Missouri, just several thousand that we're aware of, may have been more as we still get reports this morning. But the thing I wonder then seriously is, and I'm not using it as an opportunity to diss on electric vehicles, but I wonder somebody who has an electric vehicle and you have a power outage in the middle of the night, and I'm wondering, okay, then your car doesn't charge the next day. Do you call the boss and say, sorry, my car didn't charge? The power's out. Or if you have an emergency, John, and you got to run somebody to the hospital in the middle of the night and you have a power outage and you have an electric car, how does this work?
That's probably like the guy who perpetually runs his gas-powered vehicle on empty and leaves the tank half empty most of the time. But yeah, if you have a power outage, what do you do?
Here's why I think...
Stephanie, quit looking at me like that.
Mike says the rain was very spotty in Jeff City. They didn't get anywhere near 3/4 of an inch.
So Mike is our rain gauge in Jeff City. We appreciate that.
Thank you, Mike.
Morning. Christopher Wray, yesterday, he is confused. Committee hearing yesterday regarding the FBI and Hunter Biden and the FBI cracking down on conservative speech.
Well, first off, I would disagree with your characterization of the FBI and certainly your description of my own approach. The idea that I'm biased against conservatives seems somewhat insane to me, given my own personal background.
So his own personal background, Christopher Wray, registered Republican, appointed by Trump. But he says it seems insane, and I have to be honest here. He does say the idea that I am biased is different than is the FBI biased against conservatives, against freedom of speech. Here's why, and this is why I think Christopher Wray is confused. So he's saying, I don't understand why people think that. If you ask 10 people on the street, John, I don't know, and it could be a campus at Lincoln University, it could be a post office in Fulton. If you ask 10 people who appointed Christopher Wray as the director of the FBI, I would bet a week's worth of producer Hannah's salary, maybe.
Come on.
Maybe one person out of 10 could even name who appointed Christopher Wray.
It's a good point.
Yeah. So the idea that he was appointed
or any other
exactly
cabinet official, right?
Right. People don't know that stuff. So, but I don't understand Christopher Wray, and he's parsing his words here. So I don't understand why people would think the FBI is biased. Why do they think this? Well, this is exactly why. This is Louisiana Republican Representative Mike Johnson.
This explosive 155-page opinion from a federal court in my home state of Louisiana. It explains in detail that the FBI has been directly involved in what the court says is, quote, arguably the most massive attack against free speech in United States history. The court ordered the White House, DOJ, and FBI, among others, to immediately cease colluding with and coercing social media companies to suppress American speech, of course, conservative speech in particular.
So, Mr. Wray, that's why. And Christopher Wray says, I'm stunned that people think that we're biased. Remember?
Well, the FBI is the guys who, when the House Oversight Committee wanted the document about then Vice President Biden and the foreign national turned over to him, they didn't turn it over to him.
No. And so for Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI, to sit up there, and this is why we say these people lied to you. These aren't talking points. It's not just, we're going after liberals and progressives. That's not what this is. What we present to you here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri, these are facts, and it's in their own words. So for Christopher Wray to say, I don't understand why people would think that. Well, let's take you back, a week ago when that court ruling, when that judge wrote some pretty nasty things about potentially what the FBI is doing. That, pretty disturbing. Coming up a little bit later here on the show, Randy Tobler is going to be here. I want to get his first take. He had some interesting things to say on his show yesterday as he sat and watched it all day. Georgia Representative Hank Johnson. And basically, John and Stephanie, this is just an excuse to go back to probably one of the biggest political gaffes in the history of American politics. But let's start here. Georgia Representative Hank Johnson talking about MAGA Republicans.
Director Ray, are you aware that MAGA Republicans have repeatedly called for the FBI to be defunded?
I have heard some of that language.
Also, is that a Hatch Act violation? He's criticizing MAGA Republicans. I like how they do it. Instead of just Republicans, it's MAGA Republicans. So Georgia Representative Hank Johnson saying, "Are you aware the Republicans want to do that?" And Christopher Wray goes on to say, "Yes, I'm aware. I've heard that." That's really just an excuse to get to one of the greatest political gaffes, political history.
Wasn't Johnson the guy a number of years ago who went after Ray on the Russian interference with the elections back in 2016 or 17?
That's right. He's evolved on his opinion of Christopher Wray now because now it's beneficial to him. Several years ago, Hank Johnson questioning Robert Willard. Robert Willard, commander of the U.S. Pacific Fleet, about the impact of U.S. troops on the island of Guam.
My fear is that the whole island will become so overly populated that it will tip over and capsize.
We don't anticipate that. The Guam pop.
That's
wow.
Have you ever been like at a convenience store, like at 2:30 in the morning, and you're seeing some stuff you shouldn't see, but you see somebody who's really jacked up on drugs or alcohol, and you're like, I had to call 911 because this person is way high. Did anybody on the House floor that day call 911? I think Representative Hank Johnson is high. He's worried about an island tilting if we put too many troops on one end of the island.
It almost sounds like a bad beauty pageant answer.
It really does. I hope someone caught everyone's faces on, because I imagine like those things can get really long and kind of boring. I imagine people like writing on their phones all of a sudden, and all of a sudden they're like,
he said, what?
Excuse me? Hold on a second.
By the way, special day here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Mr. John Marsh's birthday. Happy birthday, buddy.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Do you care to share which one it is for you?
No.
All right. Do you do anything special?
39.
Do you do anything special?
And a half.
So you're a little bit older than Stephanie Bell, a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Me and Coach Cosmo down the hall on Y107 share a birthday.
Really?
Yes, with Harrison Ford.
Wow.
I guess we should know it's Cosmo's birthday, too.
We had no idea.
And Harrison Ford's older than both of us put together.
So happy birthday, John Marsh. We are celebrating throughout the morning. Meanwhile, and we got a special song. It's from Van Halen, by the way. And the song from Van Halen, it's Happy Trails. It was something Janis Joplin, she recorded. It was an old like country song, and she recorded it for John Lennon.
Sons of the Pioneers.
Yeah. She recorded it for John Lennon, and then she died like 3 days later. Van Halen, on their Diver Down album, they put like a sloppy version of Happy Trails.
I don't know if I want you playing Happy Trails to me. That's usually what they play for country radio guys when they're headed out.
Well, and it kind of became a birthday song. So we'll do it. But Van Halen, they put it on the album as a joke.
A birthday song or a funeral song?
No, it's a birthday song. But it does seem like a funeral song, so we'll bump her out with that for John. But meanwhile, we're getting ready for the daily DC Rundown with Stephanie Bell.
House Republicans are on fire. Fiery hearing yesterday, and they're back on it today. They are calling Lena Khan, the Federal Trade Commission director, to the carpet about politically motivated actions over at the FTC.
It's coming up 5 minutes from now here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri as we celebrate John Marsh's birthday.
future of our relationship and bringing along Sweden as well makes a gigantic difference.
All right, that, of course, Joe in Europe, and that is getting us into today's Daily DC Rundown with Stephanie Bell.
Biden was in Finland yesterday, capping off his 5-day trip to Europe. Finland joined NATO as NATO's newest member, and that entry effectively doubled the alliance's border with Russia. This whole trip was carefully choreographed to send Russia a message about how strong the NATO alliance is. Zelensky called it a significant security victory, although he didn't get everything he wanted. Biden saying he accomplished everything he set out to accomplish.
And he's going to come home, and he's going to start pounding on the chest, John, and he's going to go he's going to be like Tom Hanks's character from the movie Castaway. Remember when his character finally makes fire, and he's dancing around the fire, beating his chest, going, "Look at what I did. Look at what I did." That's what Joe's going to do when he gets home.
Not only about the European trip, but also about inflation numbers, which he is already taking credit for. Prices have risen just 3% from a year ago, and that was compared to 9.1% in June 2022. So everyone on the left is taking significant credit for the economy and Bidenomics. For those of us who are looking at our own bank accounts, we are not celebrating.
And here's the facts about the inflation. Sure, the numbers are better than what they have been, but you go back to the tragic events of January the 20th of 2021 when Joe was sworn in. We are still worse off. That's a fact.
And I think this word is underutilized. Senator Rick Scott said Biden's delusional for saying his policies help U.S. families. I agree, Senator Scott. On the carpet today at Congress is the FTC and Lena Khan. Yesterday, of course, we've heard Chris Wray was there, but now the FTC, she's had all sorts of drama. She, that she was biased and that she was anti-big tech. And there was one committee an investigation by a panel that concluded she harassed Twitter in the wake of Musk's acquisition. So she's going to be asked all sorts of questions about her political bias and political motivation of the actions of the FTC today. So that should be, hopefully it's just as fiery as the hearing was yesterday.
That was good stuff yesterday.
It really was. Chris Wray, of course, was before the Judiciary Committee. He said a whole lot of nothing. Said he couldn't really talk a lot about ongoing investigations. He said that the idea that he even harbors bias is insane.
And we just played the audio. You heard, remember what the judge wrote in that decision out of Louisiana. You remember, that's why people think that, right?
And not only do we have to worry about fentanyl, but now we have to worry about, is it xylazine?
It's like a horse tranquilizer.
Yeah, it's called Tranq. The federal government is saying that it needs more testing and research, although they're not adding any restrictions on it yet, but they have called it an emerging threat. Apparently, it can cause large open sores, infections, and
I think they do a good job helping out the president. And I'm not talking about it like, I'm just saying if you are managing a president's schedule and you are managing a president getting on stage and getting off stage and getting on planes and getting off planes, and yes, he's 80. You need to be there for him and you need to make a pathway. And you sure as hell better make sure he doesn't fall on a sandbag.
Context, which adds more credence to those comments. That's Mika Brzezinski from the leftist MSNBC network. Say, yeah, you got to watch this dude, man. Make sure he doesn't fall over. So we want to say to MSNBC, like, welcome to the party. You see how these people are starting to, we've been talking about this since 2019, since Joe said he wants to be president. We've been saying, okay, you know, there's some issues even 4 or 5 years ago, and now everybody is catching on. Welcome into it, MSNBC, and welcome into Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Steph's over there giggling, cleaning, wiping stuff down, fixing a broken cell phone.
Oh, it's been a trip.
There's producer Hannah.
Good morning.
John Marsh celebrating a birthday. Happy birthday today, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much.
And
39 with experience.
39 with experience.
And holding.
With experience. He's almost as old, or actually he's just slightly older than our 39-year-old Stephanie Bell. And if
Stephanie's got a milestone coming up.
Oh, yeah.
She's got an epic bash. Like, I don't know who's throwing a bigger
Brandon's
party.
the guy who gave her an extra 10 years.
Yeah. He was
rude.
He was probably lucky she wasn't in the studio that day.
I would have chucked my cell phone right at your head.
Well, because apparently that's about all it's good for this morning is a weapon. Welcome into the show. We are glad you're here. And if you're watching, a couple of different ways you can watch the show.
Yeah, YouTube. You can search Wake Up Mid-Missouri or on the Wake Up Facebook page.
And you'll see I am wearing a shirt, and this is a gift. I got to tell you, this is a gift from producer Hannah that she gave me like when she was, 16 years old?
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. I went and gave a presentation. I don't remember what I talked about. It was probably radio or something. I don't know. And she got me this shirt that says, and I love it. It's one of my favorite shirts. It says, world's okayest radio talk show host. I love the optimism in this, Hannah.
It's a lot bigger on you than it used to be.
Did you notice?
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And John, I got to say, I've been doing this, hosting radio shows for like 30 years. So obviously, I've had numerous women over the years give me various articles of clothing.
Okay.
But this is the only one that I've held on to.
I was a teenager when I gave you that, so let's not make it weird.
Like Elvis, huh?
The C word is in the news. COVID, courts, counties. And this is almost, I get it, we want to talk about the principle of the thing, but this goes back a couple years ago when Eric Schmidt was our attorney general and talking about orders, health orders, things like that.
Yeah, and it gets really, really technical. But so if you recall, there was a big lawsuit over COVID orders, and the Cole County Circuit Court eventually ruled, and the Attorney General was in there, and the Attorney General is there to kind of represent the state, uphold statutes, and the counties did not intervene at the time because they thought they were going to get their way, I think. But essentially, the court came in, Judge Green declared that the local health authorities' mandates violated the Missouri Constitution, and they thought, okay, and he's going to appeal. The Attorney General is going to appeal. Then maybe we could file an amicus brief. We'll participate on appeal. The Attorney General then announced, I'm not going to appeal this ruling. It is rare for the Attorney General to do that, which is pointed out in the article, but not unheard of. And so this whole lawsuit, or the whole appeal, has to do with intervention. So then once the counties found out he's not going to appeal, they're like, well, we want in the case and we want to appeal. And Judge Green said no, and it is rare for post-judgment for anyone to be allowed to appeal. I've been in cases where people have tried to appeal after the judgment and the court has said no. And so now they're up at the Court of Appeals on just basically on the intervention, whether they should have been allowed to intervene and appeal post-judgment, which there are a few cases out there that go up on appeal on intervention, but it matters. And occasionally you will see fights over intervention and who's allowed to participate when perhaps the Attorney General's opinion differs from the party political persuasion. So sometimes like House and Senate, they've gotten, and I think I'm trying to remember the case. There was a case where the Democrats filed a brief and then the House filed a brief, and they were all mad about who was the right party and whether they were actually representing the state quote unquote, because there are differing opinions on this matter. So occasionally intervention gets really weird, especially when politicians are involved.
So the intervention stuff, is it boiling down to kind of the local rights? We talk about state rights versus the feds, but local governments that said, hey, we're going to institute these health orders compared to state rights. Is that one of the big things in play here?
So we're not really yet into the merits. We're just on whether or not they have the right to participate. But I think you're right in that it does affect local government's ability. So say you're in Cole or you're in Boone, and the attorney general is purporting to, represent the interests or the state or whatever, and you want to also participate, this might have something to say about whether you can participate alongside the attorney general in a case.
All right. By the way, there was a study a couple of weeks ago talking about, and every time I talk about this, I get nervous, like, oh, maybe now's the time, but I have never tested positive for COVID. And so we got to look, and there was a report that came out that said at the end of 2022, the percentage of the United States population that got COVID compared to those who didn't, 25% of the American people did not get COVID.
Really?
Yeah.
You know why you didn't get it, right?
Why?
Because you wanted to get it.
That's right. I did want to get. Well, we had an office pool. Everybody contributed $1,000, and the last one to not get it got the jackpot.
You just
really?
wanted
I didn't get in on that.
And now you never will get it because you're not going to test. Also, I would say all three of you were sick for like an entire month, like hacking. I mean, we could pull the audio.
Right.
but
never had COVID. And I tested and tested. I promise you, I've never tested.
I did too.
Yeah.
I had
it.
Did you? Yeah. I've never had it.
I had strep throat twice in 1 month. That was fun.
Yeah, that was fun for all of us. And my dad, and I joke about those superior Rathert genes. My dad, he's not had it either. My dad's 73 years old, and dang it, still smokes cigarettes and stuff like that, and drinks the beers. And
Does your dad get out of the house very often?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. You brag by the fact that you only go to like 4 places also. So I'm not surprised you didn't get COVID because you go to like home and here and what?
The gym.
The gym.
MKT Trail is outdoors.
Yeah.
It's the circle of life. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky.
He's like moving on.
Who Joe's been hanging out with for the past year. By the way, you're getting a bunch of texts. Happy birthday to John. Folks celebrating John's birthday with you this morning. People checking in with, Northwest Missouri, 3/4 of an inch of rain. Jeff City. AJ from Jefferson City says 1/4 of an inch of rain south of Jefferson City at Henley. We appreciate that. We've apparently learned this morning there's no official rain gauge in Jefferson City. Can we start a radiothon to buy Jefferson City a rain gauge?
Guess we go down and put one outside the studios.
How do they decide where the official rain gauge goes? And then Brian Houseworth was throwing shade on where he's like, it's too close to the building, so it's inaccurate. So then how do you also gauge the accuracy of the actual rain gauge? I want to know these burning questions.
Do you want to hear? So, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is being asked about some of his, what he does in his downtime. What do you do? Do you have downtime when your country has been invaded by a neighboring country? Do you have downtime? And if so, how do you chill out?
I mean, you have enough time to record videos for social media.
Yeah. So, how does he chill out? He says he listens to music. And he's being asked, okay, so who do you like?
And the music house, really.
What music do you like?
Oh, I like AC/DC. AC/DC, I don't understand all the words. Eric Clapton, a lot of Guns N' Roses.
Guns N' Roses, AC, and I love this. He says, I don't understand everything they're saying, which is true about a lot of these songs. I don't understand what they're saying, but I like it. Got a good beat. I thought that was interesting, so that's how he unwinds a little bit.
Yeah, he's Ukrainian. One word, how he relaxes. Vodka.
I'm just imagining, does he have a playlist, war playlist or something? Because I have, you have a relaxation vibe, and then you've got a, sometimes I like to listen to music to kind of get hyped up. You got your workout, and he's like.
And he was a comedian before he went into politics.
Was he?
Yeah.
I did not know. I knew he had done some acting and stuff. I did not know that he was a comedian. And I would think after hanging out with Joe, it probably helps that he's a comedian. You got to have a sense of humor after hanging out with the president of the United States. Joe Biden apparently confused him with Vladimir Putin, which that's no surprise. It's almost not news, is it, Steph, when we know that Joe's going to do these kinds of stupid things like embarrass us on a worldwide stage. Coming up a little bit after 7 o'clock, Tobler. He hosts the Tobler Show weekday afternoons. He said something really interesting. So Randy was sitting around the studio yesterday.
Just one thing?
Yeah, you make it sound like it's a rarity.
So we wanted to have him on the show. Hey, Randy, you said something really interesting yesterday. Do you want to come on Wake Up Mid-Missouri and talk about this at 7:10? He did have some interesting takes regarding what he saw in the hearings yesterday as they relate to Christopher Wray. He's here, 7:10. Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe here about an hour from now. Something really cool happening in Mid-Missouri for veterans and their families. Also, drought, how that's impacting the ag industry. State Representative and Budget Chair Cody Smith, he is here at 8:10, and do encourage you to stick around for that because it has to do with the Missouri budget, and this is the one that's kind of, you got some Republican lawmakers kind of saying, hey, Governor, what are you doing here? So we're going to talk about that, and then also I've heard this dude's name in circles regarding running for other office.
Yeah, there's been so many announcements the last couple of weeks, and a lot of names are floating around.
So maybe we will ask him coming up at 8:10 and see what he's willing to divulge with us here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. And, of course, today, and we encourage you to watch the show on our Wake Up Mid-Missouri YouTube channel, Wake Up Mid-Missouri. You can also watch on Facebook. You know, we love, and I don't know that John likes it so much, but I love it. John's mustache is almost as legendary as he is. He's been sport. That mustache, if you ever see John Marsh in public, that mustache he's sporting, he's had that since he was 8 years old. Like Mrs. Huffnagel, his 8th grade English teacher, would get on to him all the time. And so if you're watching the YouTube channel, we've got a little salute to, oh, God. We got some Hollywood stick-on mustaches in honor of John Marsh today. How's it look, bud?
Kind of creepy, but okay. Like the Frito Bandito or something.
I think that's accurate.
So, John, this morning, Stephanie's handing Branden
Please don't tell this story.
Stephanie is handing Branden his mustache, and Branden, germaphobe, he goes, these weren't on anybody else's lip, were they? I said, no, Branden. Stephanie bought a bag of used fake mustaches.
Brandon's kind of rocking the Groucho look with his.
It's tickling my nose.
Mine
I don't know how
falling
you
off.
live with this.
All right, coming up 5 minutes from now. Small business owners in America. What do they think
America built of decency. It's built of decency and dignity, of love and healing, of greatness and goodness.
Unless you work for me, unless you're one of my staffers, I'm going to berate you, belittle you, and frankly embarrass you in front of everybody that I can think of. Joe Biden there. The economy, by the way, there's Bidenomics. The National Federation of Independent Businesses did a survey, and they're looking at the businesses, because you can hear what Joe Biden says. You can hear what, let's say, a talk show, a radio host of a talk show, you can hear what they say, but what do the small businesses say? And an overwhelming majority of small business owners throughout America they simply do not feel good about things. And I don't say that to bum you out or to project this whole thing about doom and gloom and stuff, but that's the reality. And it doesn't match up with what happens in the White House. Oh, yeah, things are good and Bidenomics and all this good stuff. Welcome to the show. Wake Up Mid-Mo. I am Branden Rathert, Stephanie Bell, producer Hannah. We encourage you to watch the show this morning. We were celebrating John Marsh's birthday. We're sporting mustaches. The mustaches ain't working out too well for us. Mine have now become eyebrows, and I look like Bert and Ernie, says Steph.
One of them which one has all the eyebrows? Are they both?
I think all of the people on Sesame Street, I look like one of those. Steph and Hannah really rocking the John Marsh stashes today. Watch the show on our Wake Up Mid-Missouri YouTube channel. You can also see his shirt Hannah got from me several years ago. I love this shirt, and I love whenever I have a good excuse to use it. World's okayest radio talk show host.
Got to keep you humble.
And I thoroughly enjoy this shirt. So we're wearing that. So it's Sean Marsh's birthday. Another family member here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. I love and respect Cosmo. He's been on our top 40 station Y107 almost 20 years. That's a long time, especially for top 40 radio. He's a good dude. Spent a lot of time as a single father, and I get that. I've been a single father, and that's an interesting situation. Respect the guy. It's also his birthday. Should we just are we able to call him?
Oh, yeah.
Real quick. We'll wish him a happy birthday on air. Meanwhile, a couple of things coming up this morning. Randy Tobler, host of the Tobler Show, weekdays 4 o'clock. His immediate take on what he saw yesterday in these Christopher Wray hearings as it relates to the FBI. And then Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe talking about this drought and how it's affecting people and what's going to be happening there. Remember, he is a rancher himself. I think is Crystal Quaid, the Democrat out of Springfield who's running for governor. She let us know, I'm not a rancher, like Kehoe is. But it's, is this Cosmo from Y107?
It is, yes.
Hey, it's Wake Up Mid-Missouri down the hallway. I'm Brennan. There's Steph.
Good morning.
There's Hannah.
Hello.
There's and Kat's here too.
Yes.
Yeah, she's a part of that show too.
Well, I know.
It is the Cosmo and Cat show.
I like that, man. You talking about an electronic leash? Cosmo don't get anywhere out of Kat's sight. Great show. Married couple. Listen,
I gotta run away just to get some.
Hey, we just wanted to wish you a happy birthday, Cosmo.
Oh, well, thank you.
You're welcome. And
did Marsh have to remind you?
Yep, sure did.
Happy birthday, John.
All right, we love you, Cosmo and Cat Y107 Morning Show. Thanks for having fun with us, and thanks for a lot of the good stuff that you hear on this show. Who's created that content? Cosmo. He's created some really good pieces here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. So weather looks spectacular right now, 71 degrees.
I'm sorry. I just got a glimpse of you trying to be serious about the weather with the fake mustaches attached to your eyebrows. I can't.
This
there's a new filter on social media that really says eyebrows can really change the shape and look of your face, and Exhibit A.
Just Brandon trying to be so serious about the weather.
So coming up, what happened in this FBI hearing yesterday with Christopher Wray on Capitol Hill? You got to watch the show on our YouTube channel. That's coming up. The economy, how is it going to impact you, and is there any relief in sight? These are stories we're working on for you this morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Tobes is
but I do know my dentistry. And one thing I know about are abscesses. If you have an abscess, you can have a mild or moderate one, and you treat it with antibiotics and warm salt rinses, and in a week to 10 days, it'll be better. If you have a severe one, you've got to take a scalpel to that abscess. You've got to cut it open, and you've got to let the pus and the blood and the gas drain out. If you don't, that abscess will travel. It'll travel to the patient's brain, possibly, where to their heart, and it definitely can kill them.
All right, so I wanted to bring in Randy Tobler specifically. He hosts the Randy Tobler Show weekdays, 4 to 6 here on the radio station.
Apologies if you're eating breakfast.
Doc's going to do some oral surgery live on the radio this morning.
Jeff Van Drew, he's a Republican from New Jersey and is a dentist, and he's talking about the corruption that he feels has infiltrated the FBI. And Randy Tobler, also, besides being an incredible radio show host, also happens to be a doctor on the side. Your take on the analogy of the description. So he's saying this is like an abscess. What's happened in the FBI, we got to go and cut it out, squeeze the pus out, is what he's saying there. Your analysis of Mr. Van Drew's analysis, Tobler.
Well, first of all, I thought I was going to have some yogurt this morning for breakfast. I think I'm going to change that up. Maybe a muffin might be better. But it is an apt comparison. I mean, it's a little graphic and maybe a little hyperbolic. But look, after what happened with the Russian hoax and how the Donald Trump administration was hamstrung, that man was hamstrung for the entirety of his administration. I think Americans' just default assumption about anything coming out of the FBI is false until proven otherwise. And that's a sad state of affairs. We deserve better, and we need to expect better. And frankly, I don't think it's that bad. If it is that bad, all is lost. But I think a whole restructuring of the organization needs to happen. It needs to have its nails trimmed and maybe some of its reach amputated, and it needs to limit what it's doing.
So are Republicans on Capitol Hill saying we need to defund law enforcement? Is that what Republicans are saying? Defund law enforcement?
I know a lot of very libertarian-leaning conservatives say that there should be no FBI. I don't think that's the case. If you look at the lack of resources, just in terms of technical these days, how incredibly difficult it is to maintain the technical resources to investigate crimes forensically at the local level, especially in places and rural places, which are abound throughout the United States. They need, and when you've got criminals that are doing things across state lines, I mean, I think there's a role for a national law enforcement agency. But when it comes to these kind of matters and getting into the kind of matters that they shouldn't get into on the one hand, like Americans' private business, and not getting into the things they should, like Hunter's private business, their scope and their target and their direction needs to be entirely restructured. I just can't see it any other way.
This is Randy Tobler on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. I'm Branden Rathert. There's Stephanie Powell.
Good morning.
And Mr. Brian Houseworth.
It's good to see you.
John Marsh is here.
Yes, sir.
John Marsh's birthday. And to celebrate John Marsh's birthday all morning long, we're playing some of the best segments that Cosmo has done for our show, because Cosmo from Y107 is also having a birthday today, as is Harrison Ford. And they're trying to patchwork everything together as producer Hannah.
Hello.
My name is Branden Rathert. Randy Tobler hanging out with us right now. And I'll tell you, so here was my biggest takeaway in watching this yesterday. I was dumbfounded. So Randy, as talk show host, people oftentimes we get accused, it's just Republican talking points. You're just old white guys criticizing stuff, and some of that stuff is true. However, this is what I'm talking about when these people absolutely lie. They obfuscate. They try to misdirect, and Christopher Wray did it yesterday. This is Christopher Wray. He's being questioned by a lawmaker about your bias against conservatives.
Well, first off, I would disagree with your characterization of the FBI and certainly your description of my own approach.
So he's saying, well, I disagree with that. I don't understand. And I think he said it's insane that people would think that we have a bias against conservatives. Thank goodness for Louisiana, Republican Congressman Mike Johnson, Mike Johnson, to remind us of why people think, yes, the FBI is biased against conservatives.
This explosive 155-page opinion from a federal court in my home state of Louisiana, it explains in detail that the FBI has been directly involved in what the court says is, quote, arguably the most massive attack against free speech in United States history. The court ordered the White House, DOJ, and FBI, among others, to immediately cease colluding with and coercing social media companies to suppress American speech. Of course, conservative speech in particular.
So that's why, Christopher Wray, I don't understand why people think that we're go after conservatives. Well, because it's what that judge wrote in that 150-page document. That's why, and that's what we're talking about, Randy. These people, they lie to you.
It's a blind spot that they have, and I think that comes from their worldview. I mean, these people grow up in, well, they may not grow up, but they certainly, in terms of power centers, they mature in the stench and the swamp of D.C., and it's largely a liberal, government knows best, conservatives out in the Midwest, especially those red states, those flyover states, those knuckle-dragging, MAGA hat-wearing non-sophisticates that used to drink Bud Light but now drink Yanling beer. What do those people know? We know best, and 95% of them vote for the Democrats. So that's their worldview. The prism they look things at through is that only conservatives can spread, quote, disinformation. And, of course, they are the sole judge, jury, and executioner on what's disinformation. So these guys are so blind that they just can't. It's like telling someone that's colorblind that, red is green and green is red, and they can't tell the difference, and they think you're crazy. So I don't know, man. We've got to have a restructuring. I would propose that the first thing they should do, the HR department of FBI should probably be mandated to screen the social media posts of any applicant and make sure that, talking about diversity, that there's roughly a 50-50 split in all hires in terms of their political persuasion. How do you like that one? That'd be a nice way to change it up.
Randy, thanks so much. I want to change subjects. We had a manhunt here in mid-Missouri that impacted the Cole County area as well. A man who's been in and out of prisons for the past 17 years was captured. They had to actually have a shelter-in-place order in Old Hawthorne. I've reported this morning Missouri's Probation and Parole Board has revoked his parole, so Brant Fuchs is back in prison. He's been in and out of prison since 2006. Convictions like child molestation, victim tampering, etc. How was he out? How was he out to begin with, sir?
Well, let me start with something else, Brian. I was awakening as I heard your first report on that, and I thought, did I hear Brian right that really it took them this long to revoke? You started reporting, well, it was likely last week, which likely they'll revoke his parole. I'm like, why didn't a posse go out and take this guy and lock him up? I'm sorry. Why? What is this parole board? And look, it's not about you being the messenger, Brian. You know that. You know how you and I have talked about this. What is there any doubt that this is one of those guys that is just not redeemable, or at least not redeemable maybe until he's 80 and doesn't have any teeth and and has Parkinson's disease? I don't know, man. We've got to stop this. There are certain people, as John Kennedy said, we played a clip yesterday, one of those Kennedy classics, and he just basically said there's some people that are just antisocial, anti-bad. They don't know not to take other people's stuff, and giving them hot tea and cocoa, a chocolate milk is not going to work, And I don't get why there is such an apathy in the justice system to recognize that at some point we have to define people that are recalcitrant criminals. We need to get off the streets, and the taxpayers should perhaps, instead of building more parks, build more jails.
Well, and I find it odd, Democrats, to them, a successful country, we elected a black, gay, lesbian woman, or, hey, we're doing this now. That's not success. Success is financial success. Success is showing strong leadership on a worldwide stage. So the definition of what greatness is, there is a huge chasm. I think a lot of Democrats, they just don't understand really what the success is. Our guest, Randy Tobler, host of the Randy Tobler Show, weekdays from 4 to 6 here on the station.
Randy, Vivek Ramaswamy was on Fox News the other day, and he was harping on that it's time, they asked him about, what do you support, rebuilding the wall on the Mexican border? And he said, nope, it's time to send the military down there. And then you get into all the posse comitatus questions. I guess the question to you is, what's the fix?
Well, I think the fix that Trump was onto the fix. It's making a firm stance that our intent is to close the border. The second fix is to tighten our welfare system and restrict any benefits to every and anyone that comes across illegally and their progeny. I'm sorry, I'm an anti-anchor baby deal myself. I feel strongly that would be a really great amendment to the Constitution for one of our one of our presidential candidates or more to propose. But we've got, look, if there wasn't a welfare system that's so generous to people that break the law, and that includes American citizens, by the way, I think a lot of problems would be solved. You just can't keep enabling crime, whether it comes internationally across your borders or domestically within your urban and some rural centers. So I think those are the big fixes. Stop the welfare handouts. Stop the free health care. If they want to give a little health care to stabilize someone, that's fine. But then deport them back. Don't give them free education. Don't then give them free Obama phones. Don't give them driver's licenses. Don't, on and on. There would be no incentive to come here then. And then by the same token, let's do a selective immigration system that lets in the kind of people that want to be a part of this great American family and not just those who want to just mooch off of us.
Randy Tobler, what's coming up today?
Aaron Hedlund's going to talk about the latest CPI numbers. I want to have him get into the weeds about the headline versus the core inflation. And then I had a really interesting talk with Kurt Jefferson about what's going on in the Middle East. That's been overlooked with all of the other Hunter Biden stuff. So we'll talk with him as well.
And I love Aaron Hedlund because, you want to talk finance, you want to talk economy. He will get into the weeds and he'll leave you there and leave and come back in a week and still. But then the other thing that Aaron Hedlund is so good at, because I tell him when he comes on this show, I'm like, Aaron, you got to explain it to us like we're 2 years old. He is so he is. He does for a lot of
people.
Great.
He's great. He unpacks it well. Yeah.
Randy Tobler, host of the Randy Tobler Show. We'll see you in here today, 4 o'clock, bud.
Yep. See you later. Thanks.
All right. Coming up 7:35, Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe. Big news for veterans and families of veterans right here in mid-Missouri, plus the drought. And then coming up a little bit after 8 o'clock, it's going to be interesting what's happening with Republicans in the state here where we live, because Mike Parson, the veto on some of the budget stuff. We're going to be featuring State Representative Cody Smith. He is the budget chair. So we're going to talk about that, but also some talk that he might run for some other office.
His name's been floating around, and other people have been jumping in this week.
So we want to ask him, like, hey, man, what's going on? You going to run for another office? See what he will divulge here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. He's here a little bit after 8 o'clock. Meanwhile, we are getting ready for What's Hot with Hannah.
I have unlocked a new wedding fear, and I'm not real excited about it.
And you shouldn't be, Hannah.
One more thing to stress about.
That's coming up. We'll do that 7:25-ish here on Wake Up. Good morning, 7:25-ish, which means it's
7:25.
time for What's Hot with Hannah.
You know, I am getting married later this year. And
halftime of the Mizzou, Arkansas game, Black Friday, Faroe Field, or Arrowhead Stadium, wherever they're playing the Black Friday game this year.
As long as it's not Disney World.
Like DeSantis did.
I can confirm it is not Disney World. But yeah, I might have mentioned, once or twice that
She holds up the humble brag ring to the camera that you can watch on our YouTube channel.
It's a little sparkly, yeah. Our YouTube channel, Wake Up Mid-Missouri. You also would have caught this morning we were all wearing fake mustaches for the legendary John Marsh's birthday. Yeah, I have one of Stephanie's kiddos here in the studio also wearing a mustache, and she's very excited
We
about
got goats here in the studio. Like, it's a crazy place to hang out here with Wake Up Mid-Missouri, man.
It can be.
You got to be watching all this.
Yeah, but anyway, my wedding's coming up. We're kind of getting down into crunch time, and I have unlocked a new wedding fear, and it involves my wedding dress.
Okay, what's the fear?
Well, there's the normal fears, right? Like you want it to fit, you want it to look the way you want to look on your big day. You want it to come in time. But then there was this bridal boutique in Texas who defaulted on their lease and just shut down and gave zero notice to any of their customers. So they have all these brides who had already put deposits down on dresses and were waiting for them to come in the mail and for their fittings, and they're SOL.
Oh my goodness, that is. So do you have your dress? Is it in? Do you have it?
So it has been ordered. It is in the bridal shop. I have my first fitting in a couple weeks, so I know it's, here. I say I'm scared about this. I trust the boutique that we went with. It's a local one. But it's still scary. Like, you have enough stresses about your wedding dress.
Red wine.
Yep.
Yes.
Fire.
Yep.
I've actually seen,
Bridesmaids. Anybody see the movie Bridesmaids and what happened in that wedding dress?
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, it's happening. It's happening. But no, like, wedding dresses are already stressful enough.
I agree.
I can't even imagine, David's Bridal, the company declared bankruptcy, and a lot of their locations are closing. I know the one here in Columbia has closed. And a lot of brides in my bridal Facebook groups, because that's a thing that you have to do now, is, ask a bunch of strangers on the internet for advice.
When you have, between me and John and Steph, we've been married 1, 2, 3, 4 times between the three of us. We got plenty of experience over
At
here.
least.
At least.
Yeah, but 2 of you guys have never bought a wedding dress, so that kind of eliminates that.
And my wedding was a while ago.
Yeah, because Stephanie, is turning 30.
Again.
But no, if there's anybody listening that has a wedding horror story, I would love to hear your experiences and maybe stress myself out a little more.
By the way, we did get the invitations to Hannah's wedding. She is marrying a very nice young man who happens to be a volunteer firefighter. And I like how they do this now, and you get the invitation. It says Mr. Branden Rathert and guest. Does yours say Stephanie Bell and guest, or does it say Stephanie Bell? And does it actually give your guest's name?
Yes.
Because does it give the guest's name?
Well, okay. Remember all of the drama you caused cousin Andy with his wedding? You didn't want to give him the name of a guest, and you just kept asking, can you put guest on there? So I just skipped all that crap, and I just wrote guest on there, and you'll figure it out, I guess.
Yes, I got to get through the bracket, see who makes it come.
Oh my gosh.
Come the day after Thanksgiving.
It's like the NBA draft or something.
It's like March Madness.
Late rounds, but you get picked, right?
Oh my God! We're kidding, right? I don't really roll that way.
Mm-hmm.
Totally kidding.
Yeah.
Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe is going to back me up on this. Coming up.
Sure he will.
I will make certain that between the man sitting next to me and every person he knows and my ability to forever hold a grudge, that you will regret not following my direction. I am sitting here waiting for the call with my father. Sounds like a shakedown, doesn't it, Director?
I'm not going to get into commenting on that.
You seem deeply uncurious about it, don't you?
I love that. Yesterday, Matt Gaetz, points, and he should be winner of the week tomorrow, Steph. Points.
Really? You're giving Matt Gaetz winner of the week?
Matt Gaetz.
I thought I was winner of the week.
Hannah was winner of the week for mentioning the cocaine at the White House. Wasn't the first time we've mentioned. Never mind. Oh, that's right. We have kids in the studio this morning. She wouldn't get it. And if she would understand it, Steph, what are you teaching your young daughter?
Right.
I didn't say anything wrong.
You did not, and that's what made it so beautiful. But Matt Gaetz, winner of the week tomorrow, 8:35. Uncurious. That was from the FBI hearings yesterday in D.C.
And points for his dramatic reading of that WhatsApp text. I mean, we've heard that he's kind of loves the cameras, but that was I kind of want him to like dramatically read a children's book for me or something.
Next filibuster or something. Read some Dr. Seuss like Ted Cruz did years ago. So that was yesterday. We're going to be covering this throughout the morning. Plus Kamala, thank goodness, she explains AI for us. You already know where this is going, right, Marsh? Kamala
Somewhere
Harris.
near the border.
Yeah, Kamala Harris explaining AI in only the way that
Just
Kamala...
like in a circle over and over and over.
And I think we'll do that for you before 8 o'clock. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Of course, Stephanie Bell.
Good
She's
morning.
Here. There's Brian Houseworth.
It's good to see you. Good morning to you.
Good to see you. Miss John Marsh in the house.
Here, sir.
Producer Hannah's there.
Hello.
My name is Brandon. Something we can do for you. 874-9390. 874-9390. Joining us on the show right now, our Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe. Big things we do need to talk about. This drought, and it's not just affecting the ag industry, by the way. Now we're starting to look at commerce on the Missouri River. We have that. We have big news regarding veterans and their families. But Lieutenant Governor, I want to start with this. Holly Rader, State Senator Holly Rader up Southeast Missouri. She's been a regular guest on the show over the years, announcing yesterday, coming on this very show, talking about running for Lieutenant Governor. Your take on Rader, who wants the seat that you currently hold.
Well, I'll talk about Senator Rader in a second. I want to know, did Kamala Harris giggle while she explained AI?
Let's do this, Mike. Let's just play it now. This is Kamala Harris explaining artificial intelligence.
And I think the first part of this issue that should be articulated is AI is kind of a fancy thing. It's, first of all, it's 2 letters. It means artificial intelligence.
There it is.
Yeah. Did you know it was 2 letters?
It just wears me out.
Two letters.
Just wears me out. And I want to say, we're going to get to Holly Rader. Hannah is the winner every week. How can you only say she wins one week?
Well,
Thank you. It's about time somebody appreciated me around here.
Hannah, I'm always in your corner. You and Stephanie, you have a tough job with those 3 guys there. I mean, it's just,
we do.
It's rough.
But wait, you got to hear what Hannah said. You got to.
Okay.
All right, Lieutenant Governor
We might
Mike.
have to do that off the air. We better get to Senator Rader. Holly is a great person. I'm sure many people know her life story is nothing short of incredible on how she survived. She's very passionate about serving Missourians. She's a very good person from southeast part of our state, and we need people to run for office that will be great servants. And I think she's a good conservative that has, kind of the American dream background as well. There'll be other people that get into that race, I'm sure. None of these races are going to go without others contesting it. That's who Republicans are. We're all type A personalities, but Holly's a super nice lady and a very solid conservative.
All right, and the one thing, I told Holly this yesterday, we disagreed on the prescription drug monitoring program, but to that point, I know folks, and I don't think it's a single issue because people, well, she's not conservative, she was in favor of that. That one thing is what's going to keep you from voting from her, but I will say this, is as much as a lot of Republicans probably found that distasteful, she got it passed in a very heavily Republican-controlled legislative body. Our guest right now, Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe on the show.
And I'd point out as well, signed into law by a Republican governor as well, which is important. It was signed into law by Governor Parson. Lieutenant Governor, we appreciate you joining us. One of your primary opponents, Senator Bill Eigel, has posted on Facebook about the Texas House and Texas Senate approving the biggest property tax cut in Texas history. And I'm not going to get into the details on the Texas proposal, but that's what it's described as by him. But basically, Senator Eigel is calling on Governor Parson to call a special session to have lawmakers cut property and personal property taxes. Any thoughts on that?
Well, look, there's nobody and their brother who likes paying personal property tax. I remember when my daughter bought her first car, the second year she owned it, she got the personal property tax bill. She said, "What's this?" And I said, "It's your personal property tax bill." "I've already paid that." "Oh," I said, "You get to pay that every year." Surely everybody you talk to, and this is really a nonpartisan issue, Brian, would like to pay less taxes in one of the buckets that they pay taxes in. There's no two ways about it. Senator Eigel's had a bill a couple of different years, maybe 3 years in a row to do this. He hasn't been able to get it across the finish line. I don't know if a special session would change that dynamic. And I think what the conversation has to be is that you've got a lot of districts, whether you like the process or not, there are a lot of districts across the state, whether they're school districts, fire districts, et cetera, who rely on that source of revenue. And so if you're going to take that source of revenue away, you have to figure out a way to fund those operations because people want the fire truck to come to their house when their house is on fire. And so how that conversation goes and what happened in Texas was they found other revenue streams to fund some of those things to where people could wrap their arms around it. I would support any type of property tax cut we could put together as long as we thought the whole thing through and had the multiple people on board who that would affect right now, including families and communities all over the state that potentially could lose some services. So you have to find the balance. And if they can find that balance, then I think it'd be a great process to go forward with.
All right, Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe joining us this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Mike, talk to us. Veto session potentially looming large after the governor vetoed the bill that related in a lot of ways to public safety and expungements and sexual cases. What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, you need a 2/3 majority to override any governor. And so that's, 109 votes in the House and 23 in the Senate. That's a big number to get to for any issue, no matter how passionate you are on that. So we'll see if the bill handlers, I haven't talked to either of the bill handlers about their intentions. It will be up to them, whoever handles the bill, to bring that up if they want to try to see if they can convince an override of the governor on that. There's certainly some great pieces in that legislation. I know Governor Parson was concerned with a few things, or he, as a former law enforcement official, would not have vetoed it. But I believe it's one of those issues that if the bill handler sits down with the governor's folks and tries to work through it, whether they do that for veto session or not, for sure for next year's bill, probably can figure out a process to get that through where you kind of get all the T's crossed and I's dotted, and you can muscle that thing through the legislature in the normal session. That's my guess, but we'll see how that goes.
Now, we've got a big ribbon cutting coming up in mid-Missouri in Columbia on Friday. What can you tell us about what's happening Friday?
Well, that's fantastic. Our VA Medical Center, sometimes nationally you hear things about the VA. I can tell you, as you guys know, our office is the Veterans Advocate, so we are involved in veterans issues daily all over the state. And the Columbia VA Center has a fantastic reputation. I really don't hear many veterans, if any, who ever complain about it. I've had personal experience there with a neighbor friend of mine that we took care of at that hospital. And what's happening, Stephanie, is the Fischer House is completed literally right next to the hospital. And the Fischer House program would be similar to what people would know as a Ronald McDonald type house. It is a location for families to stay while their loved ones are many times in hospice, but receiving care at the VA. They'll have 16 suites for 32 different families. It's a fantastic program. Fischer House has raised hundreds of millions of dollars across the United States to put these locations by their VA centers, saving families just bucket loads of money. I mean, over $451 million have been saved by families who have been able to utilize the Fischer House. The ribbon cutting is tomorrow. I'm so happy this is there. This has been an issue to get. As you know, there's really not a hotel that's even really kind of close to the VA Medical Center. So having this literally across the street will be fantastic.
All right, Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe. I want to get to, I don't know how much time we have with you, but I want to make sure I get to something that you said after Crystal Quaid, Democrat lawmaker from Springfield, announced she is running for governor. You said something, and I thought I knew you pretty well. You said something on Twitter the other day I did not know, and I want to ask you about that. But drought. So we keep talking about drought affecting the agriculture industry. Missouri saying, listen, you can go to some of these places. We'll hook you up with water. We'll hook you up with hay. Eventually could lead to, we've heard stories from mid-Missouri farmers talking about how low they've had to sell their cattle for. Potentially prices could end up going up. Now, the other thing we're watching, commerce on the Missouri River, which comes right through mid-Missouri. That's pretty important. Latest on all this drought stuff, areas mid-Missouri, last night, anywhere from a quarter to almost an inch of rain. What's the latest as far as how this drought's affecting Missourians?
Yeah, it's horrible. It's not been a good situation for agriculture. Just to unpack a few of those things, river levels remain pretty consistent, and that's because of the snow melt, the snowfall that we had, and the Corps is releasing enough water to remain it. They're loading barges at about 70% so that they can continue to get up and down the river at that 8-foot draft level. The good news for us right now, Brandon, is it's not the season where we're exporting a lot of product, because that will come in August and September as we start, to go to harvest. So we need to make sure those river levels stay there. Hey, I just want to tell your listeners that there's a lot of hay scams out there right now, and there are people that present themselves as a great hay broker on Facebook. Hey, just send me the money for the transportation, and I'll send you the hay, and you can pay the guy when they get there. People send money. Guess what? It was a bad deal. I would really, really, really recommend not sending money to people in advance on that situation. We've had several folks around the state, including in mid-Missouri, get taken advantage of that. Cattle prices, we had an online cattle sale the other day that went 27 hours. People are selling cattle quick because they can't either find or afford the hay. I actually sold cattle yesterday in Vienna, Missouri. So it's really, really bad. We did have some rain last night, which is good, but we are so far behind in areas of the state. It's unbelievable. And I'd encourage your listeners to go to the DNR website. They have a one-stop shop for drought issues, whether you need water out of a reservoir or looking for fields to cut on state-owned lands. I would also encourage them to work with their local extension office of the University of Missouri to find out what programs and things are out there that they can take advantage of. It's kind of all hands on deck for Missouri agriculture right now, because this has really been brutal.
So I want to ask you kind of a personal question here. I don't know how much time you have. We could do it here. We could take a break and come back.
But whatever you need me to do. If you need to take a break and come back, I'm here.
All right. Because I want to ask something you said on Twitter, and very personal in nature. If you're willing to answer the question, we'll do that with our Lieutenant Governor. Stay with us. That's coming up 5 minutes from now here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Inflation cooled in June. Big tech and growth stocks jumping after the Labor Department reported inflation on an annual basis of 3%.
Dow was up 86 yesterday. Futures, how are they looking? We're going to check that for you at 8:25 when we do our morning bell.
We've also got a lot of food and beverage news, from new products to new robots to new regulations.
Morning bell, business news. Little twist only Stephanie Bell can give you. We'll do that at 8:25. Right now we're hanging out with our Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe. He's going to be in Columbia getting ready to open up the Fischer House, which is kind of like Ronald McDonald. It's like, whenever parents, when they're dealing with children that are sick and being hospitalized, separate hotel rooms, this is kind of the same thing. Fischer House, it's a big deal for veterans and their family members. But saw something interesting earlier this week on the Twitter page, and the Lieutenant Governor has agreed to hang out with us for a few extra minutes to cover this topic that I did not know. Crystal Quaid announcing the Democrat lawmaker from Springfield announcing she's running for governor, and took some veiled digs at some of the Republican contenders, including Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe. And you had put on Twitter, I knew about you and your siblings helping to support your mom, and you growed up dirt poor and all that stuff. I did not know this. You never, ever met your dad. How did that shape your life? What has that been like growing up, not even having met the guy?
Well, it's been interesting. A lot of people go through the same thing, though. Where they're raised by a single parent. I'm very, very, very sensitive to issues that single parents face. My mother worked her tail off to raise us, and Father's Day was a big day for our family because we all bought presents and stuff for my mother, or handmade her cards or something. So she had Mother's Day and Father's Day because she was really both. I had an older brother who's 9 years older that was really, really good to me and very helpful to me in life. And a lot of male influence in our life from various family friends that were, just knew that it was tough to kind of get through without somebody like that in your life. You guys all know the guy who helped raise me, Mr. Sinclair, up in St. Louis, was a big influence on my life. So, the weird part was when you'd have a father-son event at school or something like that, we didn't we didn't have anywhere to go with that. But it was, you get through it, and that's what people do. They, good Lord throws you curveballs every once in a while, and you figure out how to manage those, and you just kind of keep pushing forward. And that's what our family always did. And I don't consider myself any less fortunate than anybody else. I very much value and respect the folks that have been able to have a dual parent household and what that brings to the quality of their life and their upbringing. But, we work through it.
You just do the next right thing. But so did you know, and we've only got about a minute and a half here. Like, did you know anything about the guy? And growing up, did you constantly have these questions swirling around in your head? Really?
Oh, yeah, we knew a lot. First of all, in case we get hung up on, I thought this was to sing John Marsh Happy Birthday. That's why I thought you had me hang on here.
Happy birthday, Marsh.
Oh, boy. As you guys may not know, I'm an excellent singer. So I guess I'm not going to get my chance to do that. But we knew about our father. Yes, he moved out of the state, so literally he didn't have to pay my mom child support, which he never did. He did finally move back in the state, but his side of the family, we kept up with and were very good to us. I mean, my first bike came from one of his cousins. Clothes came from his side of the family. My Uncle Bob, his brother, was the first American-born outdoor soccer coach in history and is in every soccer Hall of Fame known to man in Europe and U.S. and Missouri.
Okay.
There were some great pieces of the Kehoe side that I value tremendously, and just that's what it was.
Well, thank you for, I know, kind of I appreciate you answering that, because I did not know that, and I would like to chat with you further about growing up without a father and the questions you had in your head and all those kinds of things. Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe joining us on the show this morning. We appreciate your time, and we'll catch up with you.
God love you guys. Have a great day. Thank you.
All right, coming up a little bit after 8 o'clock. State Rep Cody Smith happens to be the budget chair, and that's been one of the things, kind of little point of combustion, perhaps, in Jefferson City. Also talk that Cody Smith might be running for a statewide office. We'll see if he'll talk to us about that. He's here at 8:10.
Broadcasting live from the Zimmer Communications World Headquarters.
Great news for the American people.
This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri with Branden Rathert, featuring Stephanie Bell, News Director Brian Houseworth, John Marsh, and Hannah, the producer.
This is why we listen to you. Get ready, pal.
And now, here's your host, Branden Rathert.
Director Ray, are you aware that MAGA Republicans have repeatedly called for the FBI to be defunded?
I have heard some of that language.
In fact, Republicans on this very committee have said that your institution should be dismantled.
Georgia Republican Democrat Congressman, I should say, Hank Johnson. Yes, Ray, questioning Ray in this committee. My biggest takeaway from all of that, Christopher Wray, who, by the way, he is a registered Republican. He was appointed by Trump. But when he said this characterization that we go after conservatives and all that stuff, he says, I don't understand where that comes from. I rather appreciated when the Louisiana congressman, the Republican, Mr. Mike Johnson, said, well, remember that 150-page ruling that came out from that judge in my home state that said y'all specifically targeted? That's why people think that. Christopher Wray, confused. Welcome into the show. Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Stephanie Bell is here.
Good morning.
There's Marsh.
Good morning.
There's Hannah.
Hello.
My name is Branden Rathert. Brian Houseworth is here, too. Something we can do for you, 874-9390, something impacting Missouri. So we're getting ready for a special session. We've had a couple of lawmakers on this week. There's an idea that maybe some lawmakers might override a gubernatorial veto as it has to do with some of the budget stuff. So we thought we'd bring in Cody Smith. Cody Smith, he is the budget chair. He reps an area in Joplin, Missouri, joining us now. So Representative Smith, what are the chances that when you all get together that you're going to override something that Governor Parson vetoed as it relates to the budget?
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me this morning. Glad to be with you. The chances are hard to say exactly. We, in the history of the Missouri legislature in recent years, with governor line item vetoes, the House has generally offered and approved some override motions and sent those to the Senate, where they hadn't been taken up and passed. And so you see kind of one half of the legislature overriding and the other half really not complying with that. So each year the House generally has some items that we override, and then we turn to the Senate. And it'll be interesting to see how they react to that this year.
What was your reaction when you were notified that Parson had line itemed a couple of things?
I wasn't surprised. We've seen that over the last couple of years. That's certainly his prerogative to use the line item veto. We've seen him do that in the past. And frankly, we've seen that under Greitens as well. So Republican governors line item vetoing Republican legislatures' budget items wasn't terribly surprising. It's part of the process. We have checks and balances between the legislature and the executive branch. One of those checks and balances is the line item veto power. Of course, the balance there is the override power of the Missouri legislature. So not all uncommon. This is a pretty typical thing. Now, the scale and scope of those items was more this year. But I think that has to do with kind of the revenues at the state level and some of the investments that the General Assembly is trying to make. And so there are more of them than there have been in years past, but not surprised that there were line-item vetoes.
I have been looking at your social pages this morning, and I noticed you updated your cover photo. Are you prepared to make an announcement this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri?
I am. I appreciate the opportunity. I'm excited to announce that I will be seeking the Republican nomination for state treasurer next August 2024.
All right. So you're going to run for, so we were going to say, we've heard your name in circles, Cody. We've been hearing it for a while. So you're just now announcing that you're going to run for state treasurer.
Yes, sir. I am announcing that today, and it's been discussed for a while. I've been in talks. I've been encouraged. I was approached very early this year by colleagues and friends across the state to consider a run for treasurer. And with my background as House Budget Chairman, I've spent years working on fiscal policy and had some success cutting taxes and balancing the budget and eliminating public debt. And I think that experience transfers over very well to the state treasurer's office, which is all about fiscal policy. And I'm passionate about returning taxpayer dollars to hardworking Missourians and passionate about educational freedom. There's a really cool program inside of the treasurer's office called the Empowerment Scholarship Account program. And I'm interested in working on those things as the state treasurer.
So you said you were approached by fellow lawmakers. Was this before or after the current state treasurer, Vivek Malik, was appointed as treasurer?
Well, I was approached by fellow lawmakers and friends, colleagues across the state of different professions and not only lawmakers but supporters of mine. And I was encouraged to seek the appointment late last year, and that conversation kind of continued and then segued into a run this year. And so it's been a long time that I've been discussing this with friends and supporters, and so I'm excited to get in the race today.
All right, but they've still encouraged you after the appointment of Vivek Malik.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Right.
These races, I think, are ultimately decided by the voters, and the voters should have choices at the ballot box on these statewide offices, to be sure. And I'm excited to offer them a choice.
All right, State Representative Cody Smith, District 163, Republican, Joplin City, Carthage area, and just announcing just moments ago here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri that he is going to be running to be state treasurer. He is joining us this morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Representative, we followed you during the session as you called for cutting about $4 million in state aid to libraries because of them teaming up over with the ACLU, referencing materials and school libraries and all. Jefferson City, Mid-Missouri proper, has a 2.5% levy increase for the library here on an August ballot. Comes out to about $70 a year for folks. Your take on that whole thing, where are you at with the library debate?
Sure. Well, first of all, I want to tell you I love libraries. As a kid growing up, I spent a lot of time in the Carnegie Library here in Carthage, Missouri. And in 2019, I was actually the Library Association's Legislator of the Year for increasing their funding to record levels as the House Budget Chairman. But unfortunately, last year, we kind of started this series of events where the General Assembly passed a law that was crafted and designed to essentially keep sexually explicit materials out of school libraries in public schools, not in regular public libraries, but in libraries in schools. And I thought it was very thoughtfully crafted, and in fact, so it was unanimously passed by the General Assembly. That bill was signed by Governor Parson and went into law, and we saw the Missouri State Library Association, as well as the Association of Educational Librarians, join with the ACLU to file suit to overturn that law. And if you go to their websites, you can see that they are making the case that this is an issue over intellectual freedom. And if we start down this path of quote unquote book banning, then we're attacking the First Amendment and all the things that make America great. The thing that's important to remember, again, the law that the Missouri General Assembly passed was specifically designed for school libraries. So heading into this legislative session, as we do across the state budget, we review various issues and things, current events inside of the areas of interest that we appropriate for. And I was concerned by this series of events. I do not want to still, would never want to subsidize that type of lawsuit. So if we're sending money to Missouri Public Libraries and they are in fact turning around and subsidizing that lawsuit with the ACLU, that would be a real problem. So I cut back some of that funding. And as we move through the process, we kind of continue to investigate what was happening there. And so had a lot of conversations about it, really raised the level of awareness about it. Come to find out that, the association's claim, and I think it's true that they are not contributing financially to these lawsuits, but I'm still concerned that they're contributing by name at all. But then additionally, several public libraries are not members of the Library Association across the state. So ultimately, the General Assembly restored that funding, but we're kind of keeping a watchful eye on that lawsuit as it develops. And the good news is that we really raised awareness around the issue, and a lot of folks are understanding now what their associations are doing on their behalf that they may not necessarily agree with. So that's the library situation in a nutshell.
Mr. Chairman, thanks for joining us. I know we're short on time. Obviously, you'd be challenging, I'm assuming, and I don't know this yet, we'll find out in February, that Mr. Malik is going to seek a full term in that position, but you'd be challenging an incumbent Do you have any specific criticisms of anything he has done in office?
You know, Brian, I don't, and it's good to hear from you, by the way.
Thank you, sir.
My friend. I don't have any criticisms per se. He's not been in that office really very long. He started in January, and there's really no specific grievance there. My entry into this race is about my record and my experience in the General Assembly and in business professionally. So I'm going to focus on what I can bring to that office and less concerned with what my opponents necessarily are doing wrong or right.
And I think after Mr. Malik was appointed, he, has spent a lot of time educating, the state about his background and his personal story. As you jump into this race now, what would you tell folks in mid-Missouri who, haven't been your constituents, who might be unfamiliar with your personal background? What's your 60-second bio for those folks?
Sure. Well, I am a small business person, been a realtor and small business owner, realtor for 15 years, small business owner for almost 10 years. My wife and I had our son in 2013, and that really brought a lot of things into focus for me. And I grew very frustrated with the government roadblocks that I encountered while I was trying to build a business to provide for my family, the red tape, the excessive taxes. So in 2016, I decided to run for the state house and ultimately won. Since then, I've worked a lot in fiscal policy. I've had some success with cutting taxes, balancing the budget, eliminating public debt, and I'd like to take that experience to the treasurer's office. So that's where I'm coming from. I've experienced a lot of the frustrations that many Missourians have with dealing with the government.
All right, State Representative Cody Smith, reps an area Carthage, Joplin, announcing here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri that he is going to be running for treasurer, position currently held by Vivek Malik, who was appointed by Governor Parson. Mr. Smith telling us that he was approached to seek the appointment prior to Vivek Malik being appointed, but folks have still had these conversations with him following that appointment earlier this year. Mr. Smith, we'll look forward to chat with you again in the future, and thank you for coming on to Wake Up Mid-Missouri and sharing your announcement that you are running for state treasurer. We're honored that you would choose this venue to do that.
Well, thank you all for having me very much, and I would love to come back and chat with you another time. You all have a great day. Thank you.
Sounds good. Off the text, 874-9390, we open up with audio of Representative U.S. Congressman Hank Johnson and what he said yesterday in this hearing with Christopher Wray, and he reminded us of probably one of the most delicious things that's ever happened when it comes to political gaffes that was committed by Hank Johnson. So good that we're going to do that. We will play that for you at 8:35. But first, we're going to be doing the Morning Bell business news, a little twist that only Stephanie Bell can give you.
We have some food and beverage news, more products, more robots, and more regulations. Avocado, and it is a robot to help make guacamole faster. Which, is there anything like more difficult than cutting open the avocado? I mean, think about how much guacamole they go through a day, and so this machine, you put in the avocados and it will split them open, remove the pit, and take off the peel. What do you call that? Anyway. You know what I'm talking about. There's a word for it, but it escapes me right now. But it cuts, cores, and peels avocados, and it can hold 20 pounds of avocados, so you can just imagine. But I think that's got to be like a really intricate robot, because avocados have like different size pits, and they're different sizes, and who's making sure they're actually ripe? Like, because if you try to make guac with like an overripe or underripe avocado, it really is bad. So the other thing, I think that we haven't settled this debate, and we've settled the debate on chunky versus creamy peanut butter, but there is I do not like that blended liquidy guac that you can buy at the store. I like chunky guac, and so I it's not in the article of whether this makes chunky or liquidy guac, but I need chunky guac.
Your peanut butter, where are you on that? Chunky or?
I like them both, actually. But
extra crunchy.
Yep.
Extra crunchy is really good. And as a kid, that's all I would eat. So I think this is smart on Chipotle's. They're using, it doesn't sound like they're really putting anybody out of work. Maybe they are, but except I think whoever's job that has to be the worst job at Chipotle if you were just like the avocado guy or gal. So I'm excited about that. Burger King, however, is it's my husband's favorite fast food. I never go there, but I would. Customers are calling this an abomination, and I agree. It's only available so far in Thailand. It's a cheaper burger, quote unquote, option. It is simply a bun with 20 slices of American cheese.
Wow.
What?
And people are like, is this a joke? And they're like, no, I guess people in Thailand really like cheese. I don't know. But they're saying it is cheaper. And if you just want bread and cheese, you got it. That looks gross. I hope they don't roll that out here. The other thing.
Got a robot to put it together, maybe?
Not yet, but maybe. All right. The other food and beverage news. And I was like super shocked when I heard this, and I freaked out for a moment because somebody's calling for the FDA to regulate Prime right now.
Schumer. Chuck Schumer in New York.
Is because there's too much caffeine, and apparently there is so Prime is a new energy
to drink, not Amazon Prime.
Correct.
Of course, they probably want to regulate that too.
They probably do, but I guess there's a warning on the bottle that says don't drink if you're under 18 because it has so much caffeine. And I've been buying this stuff for my kids, and I'm like, oh, I'm the worst mother ever. I didn't read the label. Okay. Calm down if that's you. Apparently, there are two kinds of Prime, which I didn't know. There's the sports drink kind that's just like Gatorade, and then there's an energy in a metal can. And they're saying those drinks with so much caffeine need some regulation. So that's your food and beverage news for your Thursday.
By the way, the FDA just minutes ago approving a new drug you can now get over the counter. That's kind of interesting. We're going to cover that coming up about But we're celebrating Cosmo, who hosts mornings, Cosmo and Kat, on our Y107 Top 40 morning show. It's like it's also his birthday, but we're celebrating his birthday more than we're celebrating John's birthday, who is a Wake Up Mid-Missouri family member. Why is that, John?
Cosmo makes the big bucks.
Yeah, it's John's fault because he's the one who reminded us that it was Cosmo's birthday, too.
And there was a really good picture of John Marsh posted on our Wake Up Mid-Missouri Facebook page. And I've got one it was the Chamber of Commerce, the Fiesta event that we did, I think, last September or October. I should have used that. Great picture of John Marsh. Do you get crankier than I do about birthdays?
Getting there.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing with birthday, and I get it.
Beats the alternative.
It's true. You're here for another year. But people will come around and celebrate you and, happy and all this. And it's like, I had nothing to do with it, man. It was all on my mom and dad.
And if you're Hannah, you celebrate for the whole month.
No, no. Okay, I did not choose that for myself. My fiance chose that for me, and it was very sweet.
Welcome into the show. That's Hannah, the producer over there.
Hello.
Getting married in less than 100 days on Rosh Hashanah.
That was Columbus Day. I get confused.
Well, they're very interchangeable holidays, Rosh Hashanah and Columbus Day. She's getting married at the community center in Avaz.
At the state fair.
At the state fair on a Sunday.
At halftime.
Real soon. Welcome to the show. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. So Cosmo's having a birthday, as is John Marsh. We love John Marsh, love Cosmo. I want to do this really quick before because a couple of things happening. Number one, National French Fry Day. So how is McDonald's celebrating? The FDA, just moments ago, we're learning they've approved a new over-the-counter medication. This is kind of interesting. But want to do this first. So Georgia because we've had several texts on this. We played some audio earlier from Hank Johnson. He is a congressman from Georgia. Yesterday, questioning FBI Director Christopher Wray.
Director Wray, are you aware that MAGA Republicans have repeatedly called for the FBI to be defunded?
So that's interesting. Number one, they're not really calling for defunding, but what Hank Johnson is trying to do there, see all these conservatives that criticize progressives for defunding the police. We see how poorly that's worked in Washington, D.C., by the way, this week, approving an emergency order for more cash because they took away millions of dollars from the police department. Emergency meeting this week. They've given them more money because they realized defunding the police doesn't work. Same thing happened in Seattle. Same thing happened in another progressive city, Mayor London Breed of San Francisco. Get rid of this money. Less than a year later, she's doing an emergency meeting in front of the city council. Dear God, please give me some money for police. So we know it doesn't work. He's trying to paint that picture that Republicans, not only Republicans, what kind of Republicans?
MAGA Republicans.
MAGA Republicans, as if that is an insult. He's trying to say MAGA Republicans want to defund law enforcement. He is incredibly wrong. Nobody has said defund. We're saying we need to redo the FBI. So he's disingenuous there. But really, the most important part of all that is really just to get to this, as several listeners have reminded us this morning via text, 874-9390. Several years ago, I don't know what the year was, but another hearing, Congress. Robert Willard, commander of the United States Pacific Fleet, talking about the impact of U.S. troops on Guam, very tiny island, and talking about, well, if we put more troops there, what could potentially happen? This is U.S. Representative Hank Johnson from Georgia.
My fear is that the whole island will become so overly populated that it will tip over and capsize.
We don't anticipate that. The Guam.
And of course, so this is a guy that the people of Georgia more than once have said, he's our guy. Let's put him to D.C. to represent our values, our beliefs, our level of education. Let's send that guy. People voted for him. The best part in that, I guess you could flip a coin, was that Hank John, we're going to put too many people on the island, see, and then the island, if you put them all on the left side of the island, see, then the island's going to start to slowly tilt this island. And then Robert Willard, the commander there, Marsh, was like, almost like he thought, is Ashton Kutcher in here? Did I just get punked? That was almost the response. So
where the sub USS Jefferson City is based.
Yeah, great local connection. So it's just that's the level of intelligence that we are dealing with there.
Yeah, I want to mention that somebody is fascinating, interesting. The response too from the commander is Warren Kretsch, who the longtime host on KWS, just posted something. And Brandon, it is worth mentioning. I did not know this on Facebook, and I encourage everybody to take a look at it. But Donnie Schneiders apparently has passed away. Donnie, I can't tell you how John Marsh knows better than anybody, and how big he was in Jefferson City. He is the man, along with Ruth Ann, I believe, his wife, that started the Vitae Society and brought in Sean Hannity. That's why, quite frankly, the reason Hannity was at KWS was because Donnie Schneiders paid the money to get him up there, and Zimmer did too. But they had Trey Gowdy, big names, you name it, they've brought them in. But I don't know if he'd been ill. John, he had to be getting up there.
He was. I know Donnie was in his 80s on KWS for many years.
Yes,
he was the gardening expert who used to come in with the master gardeners and talk about your garden and all, and had Don Schneiders excavating here in the capital city for years.
Yeah, that's a big deal. So our condolences, Brandon.
Don Schneiders apparently passing away. Something we're just learning this morning. Other news, local stuff before we get into what the FDA has done here. Remember several months ago we've been talking about the massive homeless problem in mid-Missouri, specifically Columbia, Missouri. They've had to go in and take heavy equipment to undo homeless camps and then return all these shopping carts, and we know the problems that it's caused. And one of the things we've talked about, like even if you're in Fulton or if you're in California, Moberly, Macon, Jefferson City, this is something we should be concerned about, because if the homeless people are trying to get pushed out of Columbia, they're going to these surrounding towns. Jefferson City News Tribune reporting yesterday, big headline, Jefferson City cleared a homeless camp near the river. Mm-hmm. And I'm not trying to do this to say, see, look, we're right, or we told you. But I think the importance of explaining, when we talk about these news stories, explaining how they impact people and how they impact communities, how they impact us here in mid-Missouri. So it's not to say, see, we told you. It's to say, see, we told you, we were right. I guess it is, John. I am kind of, but no, to say this does impact us.
Well, as you pointed out too, on the Columbia homeless camp, we're getting a lot of reports that they move right back in.
Yep. They're just going back. By the way,
and it's your tax dollars that are going to for all these resources to move them out and to try to clean it up and for the shelters and everything else.
That's right. So they're taking your money and they want to give it to students to pay back their college loans. They take your money and give it to people who aren't working and aren't doing. They're taking my money. They're taking your money and they're giving it to people that don't want to do anything. It's wrong. What else is? And
the FDA.
The FDA, yeah. Oh, and you've seen the kind of the construction happening around the Capitol. They're doing like $500,000 on Capitol Drive. I think it's going to be open up by the end of the month. The FDA approving some new meds over the counter.
Over the counter birth control pill, first time.
And the pill is going to be called the O pill?
I think so. It's it's a daily oral. What?
Why are you giggling?
It's a daily.
You talking to Stephanie or me?
You.
The O pill. I don't know. I don't, because I'm 16 sometimes. OPILL, O pill.
I have concerns, honestly, about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's the pill, what most people call the pill, the daily pill. And you have to take that exactly right. Hannah, help me out here. I'm pretty sure. And so when you go get on it, your doctor tells you hey, don't skip a day. Don't try to take it at different times. Take it every day at the same time. And they express the importance. And even if you do all of this right, there's still a chance that you could get, and so you get some counseling when you do that. And I worry that if you've never been on the pill before, you're young and you're well, if I just take this pill, I'm not going to get pregnant, because most people end up getting pregnant not because they're not on, a lot of people, I'm going to be careful here. A lot of people get pregnant not because they're not using some form of contraception. It's because they're using it incorrectly. And a lot of people are well, I was on the pill. Well, yeah, but you missed 3 days and then you try to skip some and whatever.
The statistics on the efficiency, or what's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah, efficacy,
yes.
yeah.
Those statistics are only if you take it perfectly.
User error is a lot of it. And so
I was
worry,
supposed to put it on? I didn't know that.
I worry a lot for folks who are younger who just show up and are like, well, if I just grab this pill and I take it, like I take my allergy medicine, which is like every 4 days, I can't get pregnant. And there are some, with that kind of medication, you really have to be pretty regimented. And so I worry that we're going to end up with a lot of unintended pregnancies because people are just not getting the information and the counseling they need and drilled in that it's serious, right? Like that, this isn't something that you can just, take willy-nilly. You have to.
Well, is there an age limit on purchasing?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know yet. This came out less than an hour ago from what I'm seeing. I don't know if it's something you got to be 18 to be able to purchase over the counter.
Because I was going to say, I feel like when you're younger, too, that's an important conversation that has to happen with your parents. So I'm glad that there's at least an age limit on it.
And also today, it is National French Fry Day. So we've brought in Christy Ruprecht from local McDonald's. Christy, what is National French Fry Day exactly?
So National French Fry Day is a day that we are recognizing the penny for a pound program for the Ronald McDonald Mid-Missouri House. But today, if you haven't already downloaded the McDonald's app, if you download it, you can get free French fries today. So we're excited to celebrate.
Very cool. So you just download the McDonald's app, and then you're going to get free fries. And then what about buying fries? How does this work with the Ronald McDonald House Charities?
So we have a penny for pound program that happens year-round. So for every pound that our restaurants sell of fries, we donate a penny to the Ronald McDonald House. So that program started in about 2018, and since then we've donated about $200,000. Some of our restaurants, the other restaurants in mid-Missouri, and all of the donations go directly to our local house here, which is really cool because you know that all of your money and donations, anything that you do for the house stays local right here in mid-Missouri.
Christy, thank you. Christy Ruprecht, local McDonald's National French Fry Day. Coming up 5 minutes from now. In Leftovers, we're going to be chatting with some folks. We're going to be chatting with Rebecca Gordon and Katie Bailey. Red Cross Cardinals Blood Drive coming up. This is really cool details on that 5 minutes from now. And then a Gary Nolan show. Think found for leftovers. Rebecca Gordon and Katie Bailey, Red Cross Cardinals Blood Drive coming up. Rebecca and Katie, welcome into Wake Up Mid-Missouri. So glad you could join us today. Tell us about the Red Cross Cardinals Blood Drive.
Yeah, so we have our blood drive coming up this Tuesday, July 18th from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the Furley YMCA in Jefferson City.
And what do we need to know if we want to take part?
So you just need to sign up and make an appointment. You can do that at redcrossblood.org. You can call 1-800-RED-CROSS, or you can use our donor app and use the sponsor code word CARDS. That's CARDS.
Rebecca, talk to us about the affiliation with the Cardinals that we've done for a number of years on this blood drive.
Absolutely. It's been a number of years, and we're really grateful to the Cardinals organization for supporting this life-giving work and life-saving work. And we're excited to be able to bring it deep into Jefferson City and let people come in and participate. You know, coming in and participating in this blood drive in July with this Cardinals drive, you have some possible opportunities to win some pretty amazing swag. And so it's a great partnership. Blood donations are down. It's the summer. They always go down in the summer. And so this is a great incentive that the Cardinals have given us to be able to get people in the door.
All right, very cool. Anything else, folks? Want to? And Brad Trinago, longtime family member of Wake Up Mid-Missouri, now doing more stuff with Mizzou Sports. Man, this was huge for Brad. He gets passionate about donating blood. If you could talk quickly about the importance of somebody, maybe somebody's never given blood before, because what I have found is that whenever folks give blood, typically they will go back and they will continue to do so. Rebecca, if you could just talk for a minute real quick about the importance of, especially maybe a first-time, somebody being a first-time donor.
You know, it's interesting because people do get nervous, right, when we're talking about blood donation. All right, John, don't shrivel up on me. But, you know, the thing is that we find, and you mentioned Mizzou, biggest blood drive in the country. We start young. We work with high schools, and we find that once people give, if we take care of them well, which we do here with the Red Cross, that they come back and give and give and give. And it is such a small thing. It's an hour of your time. It's such a small thing to do that can save up to 3 lives. And it's just such a huge part of really being a community and making sure that we have what we need, which is blood to save lives.
Amen. Rebecca Gordon, Katie Bailey, Red Cross Cardinals Blood Drive coming up real soon. Anything else you guys need to add before we let you go?
Yeah, I'll add that for new donors, 1 in 7 patients entering a hospital will need a blood transfusion. So we encourage people to give now to ensure that people living with sickle cell disease, people with cancer, and accident victims have those blood products they need for care. And then also, when you donate this Tuesday at the Furley YMCA, you're going to be getting a free St. Louis Cardinals t-shirt, a free pint of ice cream to the ice cream factory. You're also going to be entered into a drawing for a Cardinals-themed gift bag that has a Marty Pass, which can be redeemed for tickets. You're also going to be in a national giveaway for a private shark dive for our partnership with Shark Week. You'll also get a Shark Week t-shirt.
All right, very cool. We appreciate what you guys are doing, what you do for the community, and specifically what you all are doing for the Red Cross. Rebecca Gordon and Katie Bailey joining us this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
All right, you keep up the good work. John, if you could, tomorrow, I'm not going to be here. If you can make sure Hannah, for her comments regarding cocaine and blow and the White House, and not the first time we've used those words. Can you make sure she is one of our winners of the week?
She is right at the head of the list.
She should be. I'm out for a while. I'm going to see a girl, Hannah.
Ooh.
Go figure, right? Like 10 days. Going to see this girl.
Grandpa, I'm trying to build it.
That's Harper Lee. That's the girl I'm going to see, my little granddaughter. Damn it, Grandpa Branden, I'm trying to build it. And don't be mad if you think, well, as a grandpa, you shouldn't be